Good morning. I don't feel I need to do that this morning because everyone's like nice and seated and quiet. It's weird. Normally I'm like having to be like, all right, focus. So this is great. Weird. Welcome. I'm Mary Beth. I'll be your service leader today. My pronouns are she and her. At this time, could you please silence all the things that make noises? That'd be greatly appreciated. We have a couple of announcements today. Well, before I do that, we'll get out some jitters. If you could turn to your neighbor, and say, friend, I've got your back. Friend, I've got your back. Okay, now that we've got everybody covered, yes, we have some announcements. Oh, I guess let me welcome the visitors today. If this is your first time, oh my gosh, thank you for coming. We're so happy to have you. If this is not your first time, we are as equally happy to have you. Thank you. We also have a little welcome hour at the end of the service, so stick around for that. You'll just go around this way. And to the left, we have Michael and his team who prepare goodies and treats, coffee and water, and we like to mingle and discuss the message and other things. So you're more than welcome to join us for that. Okay, real announcements. From Farron, she said the pagan group will be meeting in the teen room after service. All are welcome. If you don't know where the teen room is, just walk in a circle, you'll find it, because I'm not sure if it's on that side or that side. That side. Thank you. I'm not a teen anymore, sadly. Okay, and then we have Denise, who has a couple of announcements about the kids group. Oh, that's right, come here. You guys stand right here by me, okay? So everybody can see you. Come up here, smile.
Good morning. I found the two most handsome young men in the church to bring up to accompany me. My name is Denise. My pronouns are she and her. And just a couple things I wanted to bring up. First of all, we are still gleefully welcoming all volunteers for our children's religious education program. Our program's continuing to grow, and today I pull up, look around, and we have two more new kids visiting with us today. The first one is, how do you pronounce your name? Z-E-K, how do you spell that?
Z-E-K-E.
Z-E-K-E, and that is?
Zeke.
Zeke is 5, and Zeke brought his little brother, who is 8 weeks, named True, and his parents, Meg and Kadisha. So we're so glad to have them. And we're glad to have everybody else here who's visiting. We are so appreciative to have you here and you taking time out of your busy schedule, which we all have, to come spend it with us. So we, again, are looking for volunteers, and it's especially important right now because we've got a couple of events coming up as we move into fall. One being our annual Christmas pageant that the kids are in charge of, and they put together a beautiful program. We had some last-minute changes last year, so we were in a big rush, but we still did, I think, a pretty good job with some help from some of our members. And we've got a little bit more time to do planning this year, and we'll be looking at having it a Sunday in December. A date has not yet been set, but what I would like to do, Bradley and I, is, Bradley, can you raise your hand? Bradley and I would like to have a meeting in the kids' room. Teen room's on this side. All other kids or people who think they're kids are on this side in the CRE area. And we're going to have a brief meeting after church to discuss the Christmas pageant. And we need to get an idea of how many helpers we're going to have. And by helpers, I mean grown-ups. So if you would be interested in helping in any capacity, please come meet with us. We also are going to be discussing our annual fall camp out, We had to go several years without our annual camp out during COVID, and we started back up last year and just had an amazing time there. Everybody just had a great time. But there's a lot of work that goes into planning a church camp out. We have the logistics, the food planning, the coordination, organizing, setting up, cleaning up, planning activities. And there were 2 or 3 of us that were primarily doing it last year, and it was very successful, but it's a lot of work, and we really could use some help, especially since we're getting inundated with a lot of kids that we're super excited about. We want to make it a lot of fun for them and fun for all the adults as well. So for either of these things, if you're willing to help out and volunteer, please meet with us over here in the CRE room right after service for a brief meeting. Thank you. Thanks, boys.
Thank you. Next, I want to have some centering time. It's been a busy week. I know school has just started for a lot of us. God bless you all who are in the education field area. I'm sure you could use some meditation and deep breathing and things. So we're going to have Mike, our pianist, play. We'll also have the 8 principles in case you missed those at the beginning. So if you could just take some time, take some breaths, maybe close your eyes, be thankful, whatever. Take a minute. I just had some quick words for while Kate lights our chalice. It's a quote actually from one of my favorite Ricky Gervais shows. It says, kindness makes you feel good, whether you're the one giving it or receiving it. I know it's very simple, but I don't know, it just clicked, and I like that, and I think that goes well with today's theme. So if you guys are willing and able to stand and say the covenant with us. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. If you'll stay standing and have the choir come up, we're going to sing our first hymn. It's in this book here, this blue one, and it's number 1022. Open the window. Thank you. You may be seated. It's a fun little song. We're going to have the offertory now. And just as a reminder, for those that don't know, we are solely funded by our members, by you lovely people. So whatever you can give, if that's time, treasure, or talents, we would greatly accept it. So if our ushers would come, our choir is going to sing a little round for you. Now we'll sing the children out. It's my privilege today to introduce our speaker. She is currently one of the licensed lay preachers and Eucharistic ministers at St. Augustine Episcopal Church in Navarre. She is a friend to a couple of our members, Carla Quinn and Pat Gleek, who introduced or invited her to share today, and we're so very thankful for that. Please help me welcome Teresa Everett.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Thank you. And it's wonderful to be here. And I really want to just say thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be present with you and to be able to share my thoughts with you today. So as you know, I'm one of the preachers at St. Augustine's Episcopal Church in Navarre. And so I come from the Judaic Christian background. So when I came in and I was getting dressed and I came out, I had the opportunity and the pleasure of meeting Hugh. And he said to me, "Ma, you're looking very liturgical." And I said, yes. So coming from the Judaic Christian tradition, hence my garb. So the book that I work from, so to speak, is obviously the Bible. And to help me understand the relevance of it, all of it, the stories, how it really affected us as humans for millennia, I study so many traditions because in those traditions, there is an interconnectedness to everything, to all of it. It's our collective consciousness speaking together. That we know that no matter what the tradition is, spiritual, humanistic, we are all on a journey. Now, I have to readily admit, the last time that I was in a Unitarian church was about 20 years ago. One of my dearest friends from college had gotten married. So when I attended that wedding, that was my first foray. So when I was given the invitation today to preach, I knew that I had to actually come to a service before I even stood up here. It would be very unfair of me to come up here and not understand the service, to completely experience it. Because when you think about it, it is one thing to read about things, it's another to truly experience it. And that's when your service brought everything to life for me. When I walked through those doors, when I first came with Pat and Carla, I was given a welcome packet, and I did take it home with me. And as I was reading through it, I was taken by your covenant. It's in your packet. It really spoke to me, and it actually started me on my path on what, in my tradition, we call a homily. So let's take a look at your covenant. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. As I really started to think about this, I started to wonder, what comes to mind when you think about dwelling together in peace? What would one need for that? What does it look like? Seeking the truth in love? What does that mean for you? Helping one another? How does that look? So I'm going to ask you on a journey with me today. And we're going to explore these questions. And on this journey, we're going to take a path. So I want you to think. Think about your favorite place, your favorite spot. For my wife, it's the forest. For others, it's a walk on the beach. And then we're going to come to a clearing. And upon this clearing is a foundation. Now, this foundation, this structure, is that from which your covenant is built. And that foundation is compassion. Now, I admit there are so many other materials that go into a foundation. Foundations are built upon many, many things. It includes love, forgiveness, mercy, grace. But for me, the main one is love and compassion. Because without it, the words of your covenant, my covenant, has no meaning. So let's concentrate on compassion. What is it? If you Google compassion, oh, you'll get so many definitions, so many. There are so many opinions, so many writings on it. Where do we even start? Well, I'm going to be very academic about it for a sec. I went to the ultimate one. I went to Merriam-Webster first. The definition of compassion is the sympathetic consciousness of others' distress, together with a desire to alleviate it. So it starts with the recognition and the feeling and the knowing and being aware and conscious of someone else's pain and distress, and then wanting to help them in some way. Now, I mentioned that there are a lot of definitions, and I read through them. But I was really struck at the New Oxford American Dictionary because of one word. Compassion in that dictionary is a sympathetic pity and concern for the sufferings or misfortunes of others. Now let's take a moment. You know, the word pity can be a very funny word. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. While it implies sorrow for someone or a situation, it can also be very full of contempt, right? Oh, I pity you. And some even find it very insulting. I don't need your pity. There's a piece of disdain on the part of the receiver. While both definitions highlight concern for others, it's Merriam-Webster's definition that really caught me, because it's what I like to call compassion in action. It's an actionable thing. It starts with recognition, the ability to even see and feel what your pain and distress is, then to act upon it, to do something, to help my neighbor as I would myself. But we need to take a quick step back, because before we can do any of this, before you can even reach out to your fellow human being, we have to first be able to have compassion for ourselves. We must be able to love ourselves, right? To know that we are not perfect, that we all have made mistakes and will continue to make mistakes. We all know that we come with a lot of baggage. Just ask my wife, she'll tell you. So, my brothers and sisters, it is what makes us fully human. And what do I say about myself? I say that I am perfectly perfect in my imperfections. I am perfectly perfect in my imperfections, and that is okay. You know, one of my favorite spiritual leaders is the Dalai Lama, besides Jesus. And he talks about being very mindful of how we look at compassion. And he says that many forms of compassionate feelings are mixed with desire and attachment. He explains that this can be an indication that love has been motivated more by personal need than by genuine care for the other individual. Boy, that's a lot of words, right? So what do we need to do? We need to take a step back, do a mini evaluation, and check our own motivation when we think we are being compassionate to others. That we're not really unconsciously saying to ourselves, well, what's in it for me? Look at me. Look how nice I'm being. I'm being compassionate to you. I'm a good person. I'm great. We can't have a haughty or self-centeredness around compassion, right? We need to dig deep, and we need to have serious conversations with ourselves. To be compassionate and to truly want to help others means that we have to fully be willing to bear our own pain, whatever has happened in our lives, accept our own missteps, our own imperfections, but then we must be willing to also bear that pain of others. It is not an easy task, and I don't stand up here and profess that it is. Having compassion is one thing, but putting it into an action is another. And it comes in so many different forms. And we know that in today's world, it can be very, very difficult. I'm going to take a step back and I'm just going to talk to you about a little story. It's a very famous story. In fact, we even have laws. It's the Good Samaritan. So in this biblical story, in the New Testament, it comes from what's known as the Gospel of Luke. So in this story, a man is on his way, and he's passing through many towns. And Jesus is speaking, and a lawyer stands up and asked Jesus, "What do I need to inherit eternal life?" He asked Jesus. Jesus turns around and says, "What's written in the law?" The lawyer proceeds to say, "Love the God above all else, and then love your neighbor as yourself." But the lawyer wants more justification. I need more. And so he asks Jesus, "Who is my neighbor?" And Jesus gives the story of the Good Samaritan. And you may not know the story. So first, there's a man along the road, and he's traveling, going from Jerusalem to Jericho. And he's robbed. He's beaten. He's stripped of his clothing. And he's literally left half dead along the side of the road. Now, I will give you a little input here. Theologians have opined that implicit in this story is that this traveler was Jewish. So first, a Jewish priest, who's represented at that time one of the highest religious leadership, sees the Good Samaritan on the side of the road and crosses over and passes him by. Totally avoids him. Then a Levite comes, and he basically does the same thing. Now, just so that you understand, a Levite is an associate, a layperson of the priest, and they help in the temple. But both pass him by. Finally, a Samaritan happens. Now, the Samaritans and the Jews, they did not like each other back then. They did not get along because the Samaritans were considered a mixed race. So let's take a step back. Let me just give you a little bit of biblical history here real quick. During the reign of King Solomon, there were 12 tribes of Israel, and you may have heard of that. And then it gets split into two kingdoms, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. Now, the northern kingdom consisted of 10 tribes. They're conquered by the Assyrians. And as a result of being in captivity for a very long time, the northern tribes assimilate. They marry, they raise children, they have a life. The Jews, actually, during that time, consider them the lost tribes of Israel. So the other two tribes at the time were the guardians of both the racial, what they saw as the racial, and the ritual purity. So in this story, it's the Samaritan, mixed race, mixed breed, who helps. The passage then goes really on to say that he was moved with pity. And I brought up that definition before, the word pity, because in this, the man is moved to pity. Doesn't say anything, he's just moved, and he acts. He takes care of the man who was beaten, tends to his wounds, gives him housing for the night. He does a great deal. This is just one of so many great stories that illustrates loving our neighbors as ourselves. And what I called before, compassion in action. The Good Samaritan did what he did despite the relationship between these two cultures. Didn't matter. He just did it. The challenge for each of us is showing compassion and treating our neighbors with inherent worth and dignity, regardless of their actions. A little tough nowadays. The Dalai Lama teaches that a truly compassionate attitude towards others does not change, even if they behave negatively. Peter the Apostle asks Jesus, "How many times should I show forgiveness for those who have wronged me?" Jesus says, "I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. That point that Jesus, call him the prophet, is that forgiveness should be infinite. and then compassion follows. I said before that there is no denying that this world in which we live in is very, very challenging. It's filled with a lot of anger, fear, misunderstanding. But to be compassionate and to show that love to others might seem overwhelming at times, difficult to do and seemingly impossible given all the polar opposites that we're on right now. There may be some of you sitting here saying to yourself, I can't be like the Good Samaritan. What am I going to do? How can I help? I may not have the means. I may not emotionally be able to do it because I'm so overwhelmed. I may not physically be able to do it. I may feel frozen by what's happening. But I am here to tell you that you can. I do not want you to lose hope. I want each and every one of you to think about the butterfly effect. There's a theory in science known as the chaos theory. And the butterfly effect is the sensitive dependence on initial conditions in which a small change in one state can result in a large difference in a later state. Have faith that within all this chaos, there is an inherent interconnectedness, and that small flap of butterfly wings, watch a butterfly, can generate a huge change downstream. Okay. Thank you very much, Teresa. So what does that look like, and what does your compassion and loving your neighbor look like for me? What do I do? It can be as simple as a kind word to someone, a smile. In the very beginning of this service, Mary Beth turned around and said, look at your neighbor. I got your back. I got you. Compassion in action. It could be a smile, a warm hug. It could be as simple as just sitting and saying, I am here right now. What is it that I can do for you? It is the butterfly effect, where your simple act of compassion can trigger a minute, localized change in a very complex system that we are in right now, and can have large effects downstream. And you may not even realize it. My hope today is that you find, all of you, inner peace. Take a look. It's okay. We have all made mistakes. And then peace with all that you have that you come into contact with today. That any truths that you may seek are done with love and understanding. As we know, not all of us think alike, right? We just have to walk out there and talk to some people, listen to the news, and not all of us think alike. We don't all look alike. We don't all speak alike. But, as the Dalai Lama says, despite those differences, despite bad behavior, you choose to offer love and compassion. You choose to turn around to your neighbor and say, I got your back. And so I hope that the words from my heart and my mouth were acceptable to yours in your heart and your soul today. Amen, and blessed be.
Thank you for sharing. If you are willing and able to stand, we'll sing our final hymn. It's in the same blue book, and the words will also be up here, but I'm pretty sure all of y'all know it. It's number 1021, 1021. Just some quick closing words from actually your book, Proverbs 10:12. Hatred stirs up conflict, but love covers all wrongs. Thank you so much, and go in peace.